That said, I do want to take one quick detour because in trying to prepare for today and going back and reading some of your work on this, there are two names that come up and came up again in reading that work that I do at least want to invite you to say a word or two about, as much as little as you like. And of course, we can always come back to talk about them as well. One, of course, is Safiya Bukhari, and the other is Kuwasi Balagoon, the warlord born on Sunday. And I just, you have a personal and long political comradeship with both, and they're very important people we don't talk and hear enough about. But I just wanted to start there before we went any farther. If you would, say what you would want to about either and both of them.
Sure. Let me start off with Safia. Coming into the Black Panther Party in Plainfield, New Jersey, we had started a chapter, and so there was always this relationship with Newark, Jersey City, and then the Harlem office of the Black Panther Party. At some point, Safia was pretty much in charge of the Harlem office. So in the back and forth, we get to know Safia, and pretty much fall up under her guidance because of her role in that chapter. And that Harlem chapter at the time, this is after the split, was almost like the center chapter for even international folks. Sometimes you're sitting in the office or you're doing work around the office. Here comes some Japanese activists coming through, or some activists from the motherland and stuff like that, and they make sure that they come to the Harlem office. At some point in the relationship, and it's just a comrade relationship, she approaches me and asks me if I would become a part of a cell in the Black Liberation Army with a specific mission to help liberate some political prisoners. And I said, well, let me think about it. And so I come back a week later. I'm like, I'm down, and I'm bringing a comrade with me. So even at that point, I clearly understood her role as that link between the above ground community organizing and other things that the Black Panther Party chapters did in the community, and the more secretive underground. And from there, I'm kind of directed to meet other folks, and then starts my process as, in the beginning, still above ground Panther, but transitioning into the ranks of the Black Liberation Army. At some point, our unit takes off to do what we was assigned to do, which led up to trying to help liberate political prisoners out of the Tombs, Manhattan House of Detention. Though we wasn't successful, we were able to get away, and that's a long story itself.
And I do want to direct people to hear that story in that video, because you did share at least some of it in the Soldier Stories joint. It's powerful, so please, I want people to go check that out. But sorry, please continue.
So at some point we're under and we're moving, and then during the course of a bank expropriation in New Haven, Connecticut, shootout, everything. 3 of our comrades were captured there, and the rest were able to get away. But then with the convictions, state and federal court, we were sentenced to different sentences, from 5 to 25 years to 20-year sentences and stuff like that. During the time that I'm incarcerated, though, she and her crew, we find out that she's now underground and a part of another cell of the BLA. And there's an incident in Virginia where her and other comrades were fired upon kind of out of the blue by these the father and son of this store, whatever he went through his mind when he seen these black folks walking into his store. One of our comrades was killed, and Safia and Masai Ehehosi was captured. And Masai was shot in the face and back, you know. And then so here's two more comrades who are now sentenced. During the years, you know, like we're all trying to stay in touch, work on getting out of these prisons and all like that. But then at some point, me and Safia's letters started to get a bit more intimate, you know, and found ourselves writing each other more. After her escape attempt and then recapture, and then eventually when she got out, you know, she back in New York. And at some point, a few years later, my own parole is starting to come up. A year before I got out, we actually ended up getting married in the prison. And then a year later, then I'm out. And that's kind of how we got together, you know, and it was all from, you know, that initial meeting as comrades and the closeness that happens when comrades are working under certain conditions, sometimes tense conditions, you know, brings out feelings. And when we both decided that we wanted to get married, like, okay, I was not even the marrying type. I somehow it came out my mouth, you know. And then I'm out. So I'm back in Harlem at first. I'm in Connecticut. New York won't let me come back in. My lawyer at the time had to do other things to get New York to allow me back in. And during the several months that I was in that period, I actually lived with my lawyer and his family, who, by the way, was one of the lawyers of Bobby Seale and Erica Huggins' New Haven legal team when the state was trying to frame them on what happened to Alex Rackley. So I'm back in New York, and then, you know, now we're living together. She had a daughter, Wanda, who became my daughter. And but one of the things I'll say about that, and I want to say it only because I think it's important for people to get, when two people's lives come together, their stories come together too, which also means the trauma and the pain and other things that come. So sometimes it's not enough for just the dreams of freedom, the dreams of struggle that's going to hold you together. Sometimes you got to deal with them other things. And both me and her had issues that we was interfering with our relationship being able to go forward. So at some point, you know, we separated, but we still maintain a relationship, and especially around Wanda. But one of the things that is so amazing about Safia is that when she got out of prison, she hit the road running. She didn't give herself no time to like recuperate everything, right into political prisoner work, you know, and then her involvement with the Republic of New Africa. She was just like energetic without didn't seem like anything would slow her down. So coming out, I did a lot of work with her around political prisoners, and somewhat, I'm not a citizen of the Republic of New Africa, somewhat with the Republic too, because of our closeness. There was times where I was a bodyguard for President Mario Baddelli, you know, but I also meet a lot of comrades who were both above and under for the Republic of New Africa. But at some point, you know, in our separation, I moved to Brooklyn, but we still maintain a relationship, a comrade relationship. And I always noticed that just because of who she was and being a woman, it was many people that was really inspired by her, especially other sisters, you know, in the struggle, you know, that to see Safia in this position, getting up speaking, you know, or helping to put some kind of organization together or some kind of work around a specific political prisoners, the New York Three, you know, whoever it was, she was like a light for many people, you know. And I appreciated that. She got sick at some point, and I think it kind of caught us all by surprise when I got that call from the sister that she just died in the hospital. You know, unexpected, way too early, so much to give, you know, stuff like that. But her Wanda carried on. I mean, Wanda was stepped up, you know, to try to carry on a lot of this political prisoner work, especially. And then until Wanda had her own health issues and stuff like that, and she passed at the age of 45, you know. But Safia was tireless, and like all of us, you know, not perfect, myself included, not perfect, but tireless in her commitment, man. Just tireless and understood, like, this struggle has to be on many different levels. Understood it, you know. So I'm honored, you know, to have had that relationship, had gotten to know her on those different levels, you know.
No, thank you for that. And I for the life of me, I can't get the pronunciation right, so I apologize for that. I keep the emphasis, Safia. I got to stop saying it incorrectly, so I apologize and thank you for the correction on that as well. So Brother Balagoon too, because again, in reading your work to try to prepare for today, the name kept coming up, and it's again a name that we don't talk enough about, and I think should be lifted up. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to have you just say a few words about this warrior born on Sunday.
Warrior born, yes. Well, the thing with Kuwasi was that I never even met Kuwasi in person.
Wow.
I just knew about Kuwasi. I knew who he was and the stories that floated around, which is how I got to know other folks, whether Panthers or BLA. Like I was listening to you with Daruba talking about the Dear Mama stuff. Daruba was just putting out so much information, man. So a lot of the information he even put out, like, oh, I didn't know that. Really, that happened, and which is why it's so important that Daruba got to get a book out of something. He's got to get, because
there's a couple of things.
To know.
Yeah. There's a few things actually in the process right now. So yeah, we got Brother Orasami Burton's book coming.
Yes,
we got Daruba's got his own project. We got another thing of transcripts of interviews. There's a number of things in the work. So, but you're right about that. Anyway, yeah.
So we had all heard stories about Kuwasi, like especially if you in that New York, New Jersey area, and I knew Ali Bey Hassan, and there was a brother named Nine, one of Kuwasi's close comrades. It just, you get these stories about how one might get locked up somewhere for something, and the others, Nine or whatever, whoever, somehow make their way over there and get them out. You know, there've been so many. I mean, sometimes we hear about prison breakouts or liberations, and it seemed like they might fail. But there's many that was just, you just get them, work it out, figure it out. And Kuwasi had stories like that around him, and other folks that was close around him who were BLA folks, and they knew each other. They grew up together and all other kind of stuff. So those were the original stories that you heard. This is, not anything yet about anarchism and all like that. I really didn't get to anarchism till I'm sitting in Lewisburg prison, and as BLA and as us trying to kind of recuperate inside the different prisons, I began to learn more about Kuwasi and his politics. But it's interesting too, because we had worked out ways to have sort of underground communications, because we had this thing that was called consolidation. We're trying to consolidate from our losses and everything, regardless, with the folks who are still outside and those of us who was in different prisons. And I come to discover that Kuwasi was not among the captured at the time, but was letting folks know that he's out there with others and still able to put themselves in a position to help different captured comrades. And at the time, I'm in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, and I know that we was constantly on efforts to get out of there. They had high walls and everything. And man, we'd be training and we'd be like, oh, we're going to have to scale them walls, or we're going to have to try to dig a tunnel under. We're going to commandeer one of them vans coming in, them trucks. Every day was an at-war feeling, at war. And Dhoruba talks about that. You know, it's like our attitude was still, we're at war. We just captured. That don't mean it's over. You just captured. So let's figure out how to be getting out of here. And even Kuwasi had sent word to us in Lewisburg, like, comrades in Philly and other places, what do you need? You know? And that was on that level. But he was also trying to develop, for folks coming out, ways to stay in touch that did not rely on a small group of individuals who was like in control. I think us coming out of that split experience, no one wanted a situation again where Huey P. Newton and his clique they have total control over what's going on, total control of the resources, the ideological thinking is going out, whatever. And so Kuwasi was really clear on, like, we had to develop more autonomous units, but with strong, specific ways to stay in touch and communicate. That's what started me to thinking how he was this anarchist. I'm still Marxist, Leninist, Maoist, but I'm also reading a lot of critical theory. I'm also starting to read more feminist stuff, and just kind of getting into the anarchist, but still thinking, too idealistic, you know. But on a movement basis, he was already laying out some things that could be considered more anti-authoritarian, anarchistic. How it would eventually panned out, who knows? But with him and a few other comrades who was really critical of that Marxist-Leninist top-down hierarchy, had me move more into my curiosity. So I started reading more. Later on, things happened at Lewisburg. I get shipped to Marion, Illinois, which took the place of Alcatraz, me and another comrade. There, I met a few other comrades who was clearly anti-authoritarian. And literature, even in Marion, was coming in from Canada and other places. There was this anarchistic material from anarchist groups. And it started to clear up for me some of the confusions I had around the idealism of this anarchist stuff. That it could work, from the day-to-day organizing to the larger dreaming period in terms of a society without a state, and getting real specific with it, you know. And even so, that's when some of the writings of Martin Sostry comes in, and then some of the few things that Kuwasi might have had published that was even critiquing Panthers and the broader Black nationalist movement. And it started to make sense. I did not want to be a part of anything that was going to reproduce another Huey P. Newton situation. This is why when you start to listen to Dhoruba specifically, Man, you can see that he's not the type. Sometimes you see the writings that are coming through. At some point, I began to pick up, I think this is Garuba writing this, because it was a critique of that whole hierarchy in the Black Panther Party, but the pointing us in some other directions to be able to move in a different way.